My name is Joezer Antoine. I teach 8th grade English language arts. I've been teaching with KIPP for 4 years. This is my second year at KIPP, New Jersey.
Afternoon, family. All right. Tuesday, day 3 of module 3. We just finished reading chapter 1 of To Kill a Mockingbird. I just need a quick repass for me just in case, and obviously I did, just in case I didn't read chapter 1 of the book. Let's list out a group of characters and see who we already introduced ourselves to. Nigel.
So, we need a character whose name is Bill and he's older than the narrator.
Dill. So, let's do it this way. Dill, who that? And personality. You said Dill is older than the narrator. Give me something else about him that's more sticky, Nigel.
He seems very energetic.
Okay. What's the word that was used in the text about who he is?
Curious?
Yes. Energetic, curious. Who is he though?
Mississippi.
That's cool. Extra information.
He's a neighbor.
Give me the most specific detail about who he is according to his relationship in the
He's
book.
the nephew of Aunt that lives.
Yeah, he's somebody's nephew. That's fine. Somebody made him there. Great, cool. Jem and the narrator is who? Scout. Jem and Scout's friend. Great. Who's next? Who's Jem? Sana? Scout's brother. Tell me about Jem.
Jem is very aware.
Okay. What else?
Arrogant.
You sure?
I think so.
Okay. I'm looking for something specific. Let's think about the Radley house, and let's think about what Jem did there. What would that make him, Stephen?
Cautious.
Cautious is one way to put it. I want to put it that way though.
He's daring.
Daring, perfect. Arrogant goes with prideful, so that's all good. All right, who else? Let's go through this quick. Mr. Radley. Okay. Old man Radley. Who is he? Neighbor. He lived 3 doors down, right? Neighbor of the Finches. He's also Boo's dad. Tell me about his personality. Strict, mean. Him being dead is not a personality trait. Who else? That's a good one. Boo Radley? Tell me about Boo.
He's a psychopath.
He's weird.
So, psycho, question mark? Demented, good word. He's not mysterious. They know he's crazy. Mr. Radley's son. I'll put these over here. Nathan's brother, cool. The last character that's most important that we haven't spoke about yet? No. Atticus. Atticus, and who is he? What's his occupation? Lawyer.
He's also Judge Scout's We don't care about it.
Nah, not really.
I would say wise.
Wise? What else?
He's also really like,
He gives advice.
he's a
Boring.
He's a what?
He's a deadbeat dad. So it's kind of like,
Ooh. Deadbeat maybe? We'll talk about that too. Cool. So, Dill, Jem, Mr. Radley, Boo, Atticus. We also met the narrator, which is Scout. We talked about, or we read about Nathan Radley as well, which is Blue's brother. Cool beans. We got all that down. Great. Yes?
So what is Gene?
Gene the Scout. Gene the Scout. Her name is Gene. So we're going to watch this quick repass. On chapter 1.
Well, I prepare with my co-teachers on the same grade level, and we prepare using an internalization method as well as an intellectual preparation method, where we come and prepare for the entire week and how we're, by the end of the week, going to be able to structure everything that we do within that lesson. We use the lesson plans as given to us by the foundation, and then we omit, adjust, remediate, accommodate for the individual students that we have in the class and for the class as a whole. And we use the exit tickets from the day before. We use assessment data in order to understand what we need to get to as far as like the heart of the matter and the hearty part of each lesson. We understand the objectives and the skills that we'll discuss. So in this first lesson, we talked about inferencing and strong evidence to support the inference that's made. We've been working on that and practicing that all year. And with that, our students and scholars already know exactly what an inference is. They know the inference method and formula, and they know how to make a strong inference and provide strong evidence to support that. So with everything that we've studied all year and the work that they've done and all that, we use all that data, put it in front of ourselves, know exactly what we're going to do moving forward with each class, and then push it forward.
At this moment right now, you're writing down your learning objective. Nakai, can you read it for us, please?
Make inferences and support them with strong evidence from the text.
Thank you so much. Linguists will be able to make inferences and support them with strong evidence from the text. That's our point 1 standard, our favorite standard ever, because we do it all the time in every assessment, whether it's informational or whether it's literature. Linguists will be able to make inferences and support them with strong evidence from the text. The last character that we didn't mention was Calpurnia, obviously the cook. Can somebody tell me about the relationship between Calpurnia and Scout? Radik.
I would say that Calpurnia is almost like a annoying, like motherly figure to Scout.
Okay.
Where she scolds him a lot for doing like mischievous acts or doing things that she thinks is wrong, and she's kind of like, yeah.
Cool. So what's the relationship like with Calpurnia and then Scout? Because if she's that motherly figure, knowing that that's not her mom, knowing that that is a black woman, knowing that Scout's mom actually passed away and dad's a widower, what does that look like, the dynamics between Calpurnia and now Scout? Jason?
It's like a lot of hate between them, tension.
Okay, tension, good word. A lot of, I don't know if it's hate, but definitely tension. Definitely tension. All right, so based off of what we know thus far, and based off of what we're about to read further and figure out, we need to remember when we begin a book, right there on the board, it says we need to pay close attention to those two things right there that are bulleted. Nyla, read them both for me, please.
The way that the author established the setting, the way that the author begins to develop the voice of the narrator and other main characters.
Write that down. We want to pay close attention at the beginning of a book to, number one, the way that the author establishes the setting. So in this text, To Kill a Mockingbird, we're in Macomb, Alabama, 1936. We want to know why it was placed in Macomb, Alabama, 1936. We want to know what the impact and purpose of that is. We also want to know the way that the author begins to develop the voice of the narrator, Scout, and the other main characters that are surrounding Scout. Why is the story based from her perspective? As a strong reader, we want to figure that out, and we're going to, obviously, when we go through the book. But that question should already be popping through our head. It's like, why am I reading it from Scout's perspective when Atticus is the one taking on the case? Why can't I read it from Jem's perspective or Dill's? I wonder if they made a book from Boo's perspective. Everybody hates me. I'm really not that murderous. Help me get out this house. I'm a prisoner. Something kind of weird. Yes, Nala? A new notebook? Oh, we're going to read everything on the computer. We're going to make inferences today and draw conclusions primarily about our main characters. We just saw how they were introduced, and we're going to connect them to the setting in Macomb, Alabama.
We wanted our scholars to come away with the mastery of, for their particular lesson, what the town of Macomb, Alabama in 1936 is about, who the narrator is and who her father is and her brother, and what the basis of the story thus far is according to the first chapter of the story. And in that also infer about the setting, the current tone of the text, and how it's going to develop throughout the entire story.
So I'm going to read for you a couple pages in the text that we read from chapter 1 to get a little bit more contextual understanding of the text thus far. Before that, let's go over a few gists from chapter 1 that we already know. The narrator, Scout, and her brother Jem live with their father, Atticus Finch, in Alabama. Their neighborhood friend, Dill, the homie, is curious about a mysterious neighbor named Boo Radley. Boo has been locked up for many years inside of his house. Calpurnia is their living cook for the family. She takes care of the kids mostly because Atticus is at work, or he has this kind of weird relationship with the kids, especially being a widower. Dill challenges Jem to a dare concerning the Radley house. And we know that's Jem going to knock on the door of the house and see what's going on. And then Jem touches the house and they see something at the window. So, as you guys are opening your computers, you're going to check into the text. I'm going to start reading. When you find it, you can definitely tag along. The question that you should have in your mind is this, though, and we're going to discuss. The question is, based on the information in this chapter, what do the people in Macomb value? And you're going to need, obviously, evidence from the text to support that. Based on the information in this chapter, what do the people in Macomb value? In our objective, we talked about inferences and strong evidence to support the inference. So that means that answer won't be explicitly stated from what I read here and from the other information that you've gathered from chapter 1 thus far. But you're going to have to do the work to figure out exactly what the people in Macomb value as a community. I'm going to start reading on page 6, not chapter 6, page 6, chapter 1. It says, Macomb was an old town, but it was a tired old town when I first knew it. In rainy weather, the streets turned to red slop. Grass grew on the sidewalks. The courthouse sagged in the square. Somehow, it was hotter than a black dog suffered on a summer's day. Bony mules hitched to Hoover carts flicked flies in the sweltering shade of live oaks on the square. Men's stiff collars wilted by 9 in the morning. Ladies bathed before noon, after their 3 o'clock naps, and by nightfall were like soft tea cakes with frostings of sweat and sweet talcum. By the way, talcum has largely been banned because it was found to have given women breast cancer from when they were using it. So like talcum powder is not really something that people use anymore, but just contextual information. So people moved slowly then. They ambled across the square, shuffled in and out of the stores around it, took their time about everything. A day was 24 hours long, but seemed longer. There was no hurry, for there was nowhere to go, nothing to buy, and no money to buy it with. Nothing to see outside the boundaries of Macomb County. But it was a time of vague optimism for some people. Macomb County had recently been told that it had nothing to fear but fear itself. I'm going to page 11, and I'm going to start where it says the misery. After you get a little bit more understanding about the Radleys and what they were about. So we got background of what Macomb was like, about the dreariness, the weather, how the people kind of walked around and operated. But now let's learn about the Radleys as a juxtaposition to the rest of the area. It says, the misery of that house began many years before Jem and I were born. Talking about the Radley house. The Radleys, welcome anywhere in town, catch themselves. A predilection, unforgivable in Macomb. What does that mean? The Radleys, welcome anywhere in town, kept to themselves, which was a predilection, unforgivable in Macomb. Stephen?
That means that in Macomb or Macomb, people usually were open to their surroundings and other people and their neighbors around them, but the Radleys were the complete opposite of that and shut themselves in, isolated from the outside world.
Okay. Everybody agree? I can move forward? Let's do it. They did not go to church. Page 11, talking about the Radleys. 9 on the computer. Talking about the Radleys, it says they did not go to church. Macomb's principal recreation, but they worshiped at home, talking about the Radleys. The Radleys seldom, if ever, crossed the street for mid-morning coffee break with their neighbors, and certainly never joined a missionary circle. So, principal recreation. What was that in terms of Macomb? What was Macomb's principal recreation, and what does that mean, really? Jaden.
Their physical recreation was going to church, and that maybe means that most of them were very religious.
Okay. And what's the inferences what's the inference that you make from them being very religious and going to church as a principal recreation? Call somebody else if you don't got it. What does that mean about Macomb that their principal recreation was going to church?
That they largely relied on God and other religious figures to further themselves in society.
To do what?
Further themselves in society.
To further themselves in society. Okay. Cool. Mr. Radley walked to town at 11:30 every morning and came back promptly at 12, sometimes carrying a brown paper bag that the neighborhood assumed contained the family's groceries. I never knew how old Mr. Radley made his living. Jem said he bought cotton, a polite term for doing nothing. But Mr. Radley and his wife lived there with their 2 sons as long as anybody could remember. The shutters and doors of the Radley house were closed on Sundays, another thing alien to Macomb's ways. Closed doors meant illness and cold weather only. Of all days, Sunday was the day for formal afternoon visiting. Ladies wore corsets, men wore coats, children wore shoes. But to climb the Radley front steps and call, "Hey," of a Sunday afternoon was something their neighbors never did. The Radley house had no screen doors. I once asked Atticus if it ever had any, and Atticus said yes, but before I was born. We'll stop right there. So according to what we learned about the Radleys, let's respond to this question. First, you're going to write that response down in your notebooks, and then we'll come to discuss in just a moment. Write that response down in your notebooks, and we'll discuss in a moment.
The main thing we notice is really how our students take away the words that are being used by the author. So when the author uses these tone words in the setting, when the author uses specific words according to the dialogue that's set in the story by the narrator and her brother, or the narrator and her father, and all the other characters of the story, we know that our students will stick on those pieces of information as further as where the text is, take from that, look at that as a piece of evidence to use when they make their inference according to whatever the question that's asked of them. So in that, when they see this question, they'll spark in their brains, I remember Scout said this about Boo Radley in his house, or about Boo Radley himself. I remember how Scout, Dill, and Jem came together and played, and then dared each other to go towards the Radley house and touch the door. So with that, we want to activate that prior knowledge within them, and we want to see that that prior knowledge was activated on their paper, and then cite those strong key words and those strong dialogue aspects, and where their ability to apply their dramatic irony comes into play, and then say, hey, this is my response, here's the evidence on this page in this chapter, and on this paragraph, and this is how I'm analyzing it.
We know that the people in Macomb value community. I think is the simplest way to put it, right? They valued being amongst each other in fellowship, in love with each other, looking out for each other, making sure that everybody was copacetic. You know, they would go to each other's houses and go, yo, you good? All right, great. You're talking about doors being opened. Like Sanaa was saying, the only reason why their doors would be closed were because of cold weather and if somebody was sick. And you don't want to spread the coronavirus to anybody for any reason. So they're like, if you're sick, I'll leave you alone. If you're not sick, leave those doors open because I may want some apple pie about 4 o'clock. Right? Like, all that was important to the people. And that's why they were like, hey, Radleys, y'all are real weird because your doors are closed, you don't come out, you always got shoes on. It don't make some type of sense. It didn't say that in the text, but I'm just saying. But all that was important to Macomb, and the reason why we found that is because you guys inferred it from what the text said explicitly. The text said nothing about the people in Macomb liking this or wanting that other than church being its principal recreation. But because you saw that it said that the Radleys did this and that which was alien, or the Radleys did this and that which was not okay or not, accustomed or not what the people were accustomed to, then you were like, cool. Obviously, the people in Macomb were very big on community, very big on fellowship, very big on church, which also includes fellowship and being amongst each other, right? Not like every person in the world has its own church, but it's like church is about the people being together, and that was supporting how they all lived as a community. In your computers, in Google Classroom, TDQs, or right there, you have a few questions to answer. We went over number 1 yesterday about the social class of Scout's family, where it stemmed from, especially with Simon Finch, having been a slave owner, got his riches from there. All the other questions are based off of the rest of the chapter. I will give you guys 15 minutes. You have your groups right around you. Utilize your peers and get this work done.
What I do is I ask a question and I ask my students to first deconstruct what the question is asking. And they discuss with themselves as teammates and classmates first. That's number 1. After they do so, we come together as a class and figure out what we've deconstructed according to the question. And then they go back and discuss with themselves what they believe the answer is. So either they work as a group to try to decipher what the answer is, and they research back in the text and they figure out exactly what's happening around the question, or they do it individually, write their first answer down, ask for a check. And what I usually do is I say, you're on track, or I don't know, I'll come back. And then let's see what we come up with as a group. The most part of it, the most hardy part of it, though, is allowing them to grapple with the challenges of critical thinking and deductive reasoning as they come to a point of, do I really understand what's going on in this text? And they have to ask those questions of clarification to see whether they're on the right track or whether they fully understand what the question is asking of them. That comes with annotations, that comes with gisting, and then that also comes with the discussions that they have with each other. I step back, I watch, I give little, minute hints here and there, but at the end of the day or the end of the lesson or the end of each part, I want to make sure that they did all of the work in order to understand what each part is asking for them.
Let's discuss question number 2. I love the wording of question number 2. 1, because of the big words that are included there. Also because of who Atticus is as a person. Question number 2 asks, what can be inferred about Atticus based on the following line? Gemini found our father satisfactory. He played with us, read to us, and treated us with courteous detachment. Satisfactory, courteous detachment. What do these words mean in the context that they're put in the story? Marcus said, call on him. So, Marcus?
I got a connection.
Go ahead.
You ever seen that commercial on TV where it's like, just okay is not okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that? Snickers?
No.
No.
I think it's Allstate.
Allstate?
I think it's Allstate.
You remember the one when the doctor comes into the hospital room? And he's coming in, he just got off suspension or something? He's like, I just got off suspension, 3rd day back. Like, bro, you about to perform surgery on people. It's crazy.
He was like, I think it's gonna be okay.
Right. So you're saying just okay is what?
It's not okay.
Okay, but connected to what the question is?
Oh, because the father is just okay. He does the bare minimum of what it takes to be a dad.
Okay, call on somebody else.
So,
Hold on, guys. Go ahead.
I have another connection.
Go ahead.
So maybe Atticus is probably still holding on to the fact that their mom died, and she was probably a good mother figure, so he's probably not really know who he was doing because his mother raised him.
Wow. Okay, so let me write all that down. You're saying that because he's a widower, mom used to take care of the kids. Why did you make that connection about mom having used to take care of the kids?
Because I know that he's a lawyer and he comes home late and stuff. So, and I know that during this time, wives they worked in the home, they took care of the children. So I've heard that that's what she did.
Great. During this time period, you're saying you infer that fathers didn't usually father, right? Quote unquote father. Or maybe the idea of what a father was back then isn't the same as what we know now. Malachi came back? Yeah, go ahead. All right, what else? What about this whole courteous detachment thing? Jason?
I said, well, when I looked up to it, courteous and detachment, it says that courteous is like, it said that Atticus had like a level of respect between his children, but when they included the word detachment, so that he was like, he didn't constantly meddle with their lives, like he was there, but didn't have a real impact on their lives.
Okay, so he was there, semicolon, no real impact.
Now you can do the father thing behind the wall and stuff.
Oh, got you. So he'd be like, as a father, he'd just be like, if, let's say like Scout was like crying, he'd be like, there, young child. I'm your father, love you, bye. Okay, need some water? All right, I gotta go. I'm a lawyer. And then he would just like leave like that. You guys laughed more yesterday. Which one?
Come back.
What?
Like 2 years later and be like, I'm still
Oh, right. You're like, he'd be like, I'm still here. Hey, I birthed you. Me. I mean, your mother did, but I was there. I was at the hospital. I held her hand. Actually, I wasn't in the hospital room at all. I was outside getting a Sprite. I don't think they had Sprite at that time. I love you, though. Okay, bye. The day before, as I was framing it, I was telling them about Atticus, and one of the lines is that he was perfectly satisfactory as a father. So it was completely spontaneous, and I was telling them, like, this is how Atticus acts as a father, just to give them a visual of what it was. And then they asked me to do it again, and I was like, now I'm on the spot. So it was funny to try to act it out again, but to see that's what stuck with them was like, that's really great, because now they know what this character is like, and then how we'll develop down the line. See, I'm amazing. Turn me up. All right, so we know that Atticus, his fatherhood is kind of weak, it's kind of right? But according to what Jaden inferred, or how he connected the dots, is like, because this guy's a widower, because mom used to, take care of the family, because she was the mom, and back in the day, that's what the roles kind of stated. He wasn't really comfortable with being that nurturing father, and maybe that's why he had Calpurnia, or relied on her so much, because he had to go be a lawyer. And in all those things that had an impact on Scout and Jem, and how they treated Calpurnia, or how they treated each other, or how Jem looked towards his father to be this type of person that never really was. Cool. Is there any other questions that you guys wanted to gloss over, discuss, talk about in terms of imprinting and making sure that it was correct? Or shall we move forward? Go ahead.
When was it? What's the setting? What's the time for this again?
Remember, Macomb, Alabama. This is the American South, 1936. All right. So yes, we have in mind that it's Jim Crow era, according to the dynamics between blacks and whites, but also in that time period in the nuclear household with the father, the mother, the son, and the daughter, what did those roles look like, right? You guys are discussing right now World War II in social studies, and in Mr. Salazar's class, you guys are talking about how women picked up a lot of the slack for the men that were away at war, right? Or they were seen as, okay, do this while he's away, right? But if you talk about post-World War I, in the midst of the Great Depression, and what it looks like there, it was really static about what women did and what men did in order to support their families, right? Men, the breadwinner, they did all the work outside the house.
And mothers stayed in the house to take care of the kids.
And the mothers stayed in the house to take care of the kids. They would kind of hold it down there and then make sure the food was on the table for the husband and he got home from a long day of work, as if the mom didn't work at home. But it was like all that jazz happening too. And the kids were just kids running around being silly. Any questions? Great, exit ticket. Before we get to starting chapter 2, also in Google Classroom, you're going to be silent and independent. Based on her words and actions in chapter 1, which of the following best describes Scout's character? Number 2 asks, which line from the text reveals Scout's personality as answered in question number 1, which is a part B question. Number 3, what inference can you draw based on the following line? Besides, Jem had his little sister to think of. Remember to use your process of elimination strategy in your multiple choice response. Knowing why the right answer is correct, knowing why the wrong answer is incorrect. Leverage your text if you need to.
I stress the importance of purpose. What are we doing and why? They need to answer that for me. What was the purpose of this lesson? What was the purpose of this question? Why are we even asking this question according to what we just read? Is there something that you're supposed to take away from it? And I make sure that they understand that each thing that we do has a purpose. Each question that we have has a purpose. Each discussion that we go into has a purpose. And without purpose, our students won't be as engaged or as invested in it. Once they understand purpose, once they see also what the impact is of their output onto the paper, the revisions that they make, and then the final product that they also hand in, once they see all that come to fruition and come to life for them, that's how they know that when they come into class every day, there's more to do and there's more purpose behind everything that they do. I want to know my kids more than anything else, because I can't teach one of my scholars without knowing who they are, without knowing what the best leverage is to teach that individual. And in that, I teach the entire class as well, according to the culture of the classroom. If one class is more excited and energetic, I feed into that, and it's kind of like controlled chaos, right? Where I tell the jokes and I bring it to life, or whatever the story is, so that they can be as invested and engaged and do it for themselves as when they go to read or when they go to attack the work. I think the one thing is for our kids to know that they're known. To know that they're related to know that they're loved in the room, so that they can feel comfortable and that they can trust me, to know that I'm here for a reason, not to quell any type of excitement that they want to bring out in the lesson, but really to leverage that and engage that so that they can see that all their personalities and all their energy levels are in a way part of the lesson as well, so that they can see the love that they have for learning, to see the love that I have for teaching, and to see the love that we have for each other as we build the culture in the classroom. So relationship building is number one, knowing and loving them, and also bringing whatever the lesson is to life so that they can be like, yes, I love what I learned here. Can you tell me more, or can we do more? So that by the end of the class, we've always run out of time because they were invested and engaged, not because it was a complete lack of structure or a complete lack of love or care and investment inside the classroom.